And those live streams generally go on for about 2 hours, and I answer pretty much every question that comes my way. The idea with these short live streams is sometimes people are doing things where they are looking for something to entertain themselves with while they mow the lawn or work out or have a long commute. But sometimes we need something that is quick and cuts right to the chase. That's the point of these short videos. I'm going to answer questions for about 15 minutes. Actually, I have a timer for that. If this is your first time to my channel, my name is Dion. I reached financial freedom in 10 years or less, even though I wasn't starting from the best position. And my goal is to share that information with you. And sometimes I do that by answering questions, and sometimes questions prompt me to make an entire video based on that question. A question that came in a couple of times in the BiggerPockets forums and on the Facebook groups that seems to be a reoccurring question came to me recently in a text. So thank you for that. The question was, and I'm going to answer this question, giving people a chance to get questions into the comment section so I can answer them during this live. Howdy, Dividend Dave. Thank you for your question. I'll get to that in just a second. Hopefully you're enjoying your house hack duplex that you're moving into and finding out all of the fun things that come along with your first rental. But I was asked, do you do walkthroughs of your rental properties? And it's a confusing answer because yes and no. I personally don't go out and do an annual walkthrough of each one of my properties. I have handymen that I've worked with for a period of time that I trust, who are generally going to point out things that are concerning. Safety concerns are what I'm more worried about, more so than the cleanliness of it or how they're keeping the yard. The tenants are renting it. If I get complaints from other tenants, I would address it. But mostly I'm looking for things that can help me with asset protection. So loose banisters, uneven walkways, those kind of things, windows that don't open. So if I'm going to do a walkthrough of one of my rentals, I don't like to tell the tenants, hey, I'm coming to do a walkthrough. I like to just kind of include it in my routine maintenance plan. I will schedule a time to come to rentals to replace an HVAC filter and drop off 3 filters for the other times of the year when they might change it if it's easily accessible. If it requires any tools, me or my handyman will be the ones changing those out. But that gives me a chance to walk through the unit. If I have Section 8 tenants, I keep about 1/3 of my properties with the Section 8 program. The state generally does an annual or every other year walkthrough, and I'll try to be present for those, giving me another chance to see the property. But anytime a handyman is called out to a property to fix something, it's also a chance for them to look for things that would be a safety concern. So the question is simple. Do you do walkthroughs of your property? The answer is not simple. Yes, but not on a scheduled routine time frame. I don't even let the tenants know I'm actually doing a walkthrough because my goal is to have tenant longevity. Tenant turnover is expensive for an owner. And what I want is my tenants to have the perception that it is their home. I mean, they live there. They're the ones paying the rent. I don't want them thinking that I'm checking on them and I'm watching everything that they do. I am looking for safety concerns because the rentals that I provide, I want to make sure they meet 3 criteria: safe, clean, functional. That's at tenant turnover. While the tenants are living there, unless it causes a rodent problem, I'm not actually concerned with how they keep the inside of the property. I have had to educate some younger tenants on what happens when you leave soda cans out on a counter in a state like Washington, where we have the sugar ants pretty much everywhere at certain times of the year. So let me get to the comments and see if there are any questions coming in. This is kind of a new format for me. This is my second random midday live stream where I'm going to answer questions. I've done some midday lives where I'm on the slides and I'm on my phone and I don't really have the opportunity to answer questions. The point of these is to answer questions in a short format because some people will never click on a video that's 2 hours long. And this is a way to hear how these conversations go where people ask questions. So, Dividend Dave, your first question, and I guess this is because of the text that you sent me earlier on the things you found in the refrigerator of the rental you just moved into. What is the most surprising thing you found in a new property purchase and how did you resolve? The most surprising thing to me seems to happen every time you buy a property. Each one has something new I've not seen before. The weirdest one to me that was the hardest to wrap my head around was it had a well, and and it's on septic. Now, I prefer septic over sewer. I'm not sure if I prefer well over water, but I have had no problems with my well until this one issue. But when I was buying the property, no one knew where the well was. No one, and it's a fourplex next to a business, and the business and the fourplex share the well. No one could find where the well was. No one could find if the well was on my property or on the business's side. I just knew that we had an agreement on the water usage between the two properties. It really wasn't resolved until problems came up, where recently the well pump technically went out. It was the pump switch, the capacitor that runs the pump switch was out. 3 electricians couldn't find that, but a tenant of mine found that problem. I found out that the well is on my property. We found the access port to the well itself. I have a chlorine system on my property and a light that runs off of my electricity, but the well pump itself and all of that kind of stuff runs on the business side. So they're paying for the electricity for the water to be pumped up. It was weird. Like, how do you not know where the well is? Like, it should be recorded with the county, but this was built in 1981, at the same time the business was, and the business and the fourplex were on one property. It was later divided and not recorded really well. So it always seems like there's something new with each property. I haven't found too many things inside. I did have a hoarder house I bought where the hoarder had moved out, part of the agreement to close the deal. And I don't even know what was inside there because I found a handyman or a junk hauler who said they would completely clean the house out for $400 as long as they got to keep whatever they found. So I don't even know what they found. Don't care. Howdy, Bill, all-nighter hider. Howdy. Samuel, hi. I know that you don't like HOA. What about for a condominium mid-rise for myself and my wife to live in? I lived in a single house and it was really a burden for me. So where you live is a little different to where you invest. I still wouldn't want to live where there was an HOA. Somebody controlling how you park, where you park, the size of dumpster you have, the colors that you can use, the random assessments that can come. The HOA fee every month is not really the problem. You can plan for that. But if they decide to replace an entire thing that you don't think even needed work, like the fence or the community gate or whatever, and you all of a sudden have a $10,000 or $20,000 expense, I don't like that. You don't have the control. But the biggest problem I really have with HOAs, and this is on my personal experience in the past, the HOA boards are generally full of people who have nothing better to do than mess with their neighbors. Like, no thanks. But some people thoroughly enjoy it. I believe Michael Zuber lives in a condominium. He's lived there for the last decades and is totally happy. It's not something that I would look at turning into a rental in the future because you have to look at the CC&Rs and see, do they even allow it? What percentage do they allow? How close to that threshold are they? What can change in the future? It removes things like short-term rentals often because of HOA rules, even if you're allowed to have rentals. Doesn't mean it's not a good thing or that it won't work, but for me, it's still a pass. But I'm weird. Like, obviously, if you're watching my content, you know that I'm weird. I'm more of a rural person than an urban person. I don't like to live close to people, even though I live in a small multifamily. I live in a fourplex surrounded by single family houses and one business. I don't live in a division of fourplexes where they're all just one contractor built 30 at the same time. So living in a condo would depend on the neighbors too. And what's the parking like? A lot of things to consider there. And Ash, howdy. Thank you for being a member of the channel. I appreciate that. The member-only live streams are coming up soon, probably in like 2 weeks, and they will follow on Tuesdays after the public live streams. Howdy. Is there a way to determine which rental type, single family, multifamily, cash flows well in a market without yet owning property there? Absolutely. And this is something, I'll probably butcher how he says it, but Michael Zuber has, from One Rental at a Time, has a really good strategy where he doesn't really prefer single family over small multifamily over multifamily. He looks at the yield, which one will perform the best. And to do that, you need to consider a few things. Single family tend to have the best turnover, so longest longevity with tenants. I'm experiencing with my small multifamily about the same. I've had 4 tenant turnovers in 12 years. So It's not really common. I do have one single family house, and that's where tenant turnover happened in one of my times. With multifamily, 5 units or more, where it's more of an apartment, people tend to look at it like it's an apartment. It's a unit. Whereas in my duplex with their own fenced yard and their own parking and their own garage, or my fourplex with their own garage and their parking area, it's more of a home. People are there 20, 30 years. So turnover's part of the calculation there on whether you would go for commercial, small multifamily, or single family. So in some areas, maybe single family performs better there. Easier to house hack single family and small multifamily than commercial. Not impossible, just easier. Lending for me looks better with 4 units or less. So the lending always looks better for me on residential. I hate to use the word always, but I just did. Single family and small multifamily, you're going to have to learn your rent box. Like we have a buy box. This is where I want to shop. This is the type of asset I want to go for, but you have to understand the rent. So look in the area and you have to study your area for what rents the best. There are some beach areas where, townhomes might rent better than single family houses because people don't want to take care of the yard. Whatever the thing is, in my area, it's really weird. A carport will get more money out of rent than a garage, even though the garage equals storage. It just rains a lot in Washington. People like to have a place to put their car where they don't have to get in and out of a garage, but they have a place to park that they're not going to be getting in and out of the water. Look at your yield for single family versus small multifamily. Take a few weeks, see which ones rent faster, and compare that to the prices. So single family and small multifamily in my area, the rents are almost the same. Like they're within $100 of each other. Based on bedroom count. So the bigger the bedroom count, the more the rent is. But the single family houses and the duplexes cost about the same. So literally almost double the rent for the same price. That's why in over 10 years of investing, I have not seen a single family house in Washington State in the area that I invest, the 2 counties, that would cash flow, let alone get a yield. It just wouldn't cash flow positive. So I've gone with small multifamily. The one single family I have is because I bought it before I was an investor. But Millennial Mike invests in Gary, Indiana, where single family houses perform really well. You just have to study. And in that area, duplexes might have a huge turnover. It might be more people want their yards. Studying the market, and it takes time. That's why whenever we say learn your market, learn what average is, try to get better than average, 60 to 90 days, because you have to learn what are the home prices going for versus single family versus duplex versus single family with ADU. Like there's a whole different asset type there to look at. Then you have to learn the rents. You can't just look on Craigslist, look on Facebook Marketplace, Rentometer, and just, oh, that's what the rents are. You have to watch for a few weeks. If you see a bunch of places listed, that doesn't mean that's the rents. That's what they're listed at. What if those sit for 3 or 4 weeks without getting a tenant? That means they're too high. What if they're gone in 30 minutes? That means they might have been priced too low. So yes, based it on yield, you will hear people say, turnover is better with a single family than multifamily, and generally they're applying that to 5 units or more, not so much duplex, triplex, or fourplex, unless you have fourplexes that are like a big box where you have 2 tenants above, 2 tenants below. If you can get side-by-side units, that's more tenant friendly, in my opinion. I haven't had any turnover in my fourplex because they're all side-by-side units. But the ones that are over-unders are more apartment-like, and you might see more turnover there. Again, thanks for being a member. All-Nighter Hider was built in 81. Nice. The Sun built in 80. Oh, I'm not going to reference how bad my memory is. Rip, welcome to the club. Thank you for joining. That's much appreciated. Remember, the members-only live streams will be Tuesday evenings, and they'll be available after too for members. And then I'll ask where I was at. And we have a few more minutes left here because remember, these are short live streams. So people that prefer short content can see questions answered. Elise, howdy. Since you have retired, how will you determine what percentage of your cash flow to live off and what percentage to use to reinvest into new properties? That is a great question because I don't have an immediate answer. So that's what makes me think it's a great question because it's something I'm going to have to think about and probably make a video on. I knew my freedom number, and you have that data. You can look at the last 6 months or 12 months or 18 months of your credit card statements, your receipts, your bank statements, and say, this is what I have been spending. Most people expect it to, go really high when they retire. It's going to be a lot more, and it's not. It's probably going to cost you less. Healthcare is the one thing that goes up. Travel, you're commuting, you're eating out, you're all that kind of stuff. You're not saving for retirement. You're paying less taxes. All those things that kind of bring your expenses down. I'm still house hacking, so I knew that it was between $3,000 and $4,000 for me to live every month comfortably, because house hacking, no payments, paid off vehicles, still saving for the next vehicle. So I figured at least 3 times that, 12,000 or more. Cash flow is just close to passing 15,000 a month now. So it's, was that 3 or 4 times what it takes me to live? It's really, I try to keep it this simple. It's what I don't use. What's left at the end of the month gets saved. I haven't assigned an exact amount. I think, like figuring out a market, it's going to take me a few months to figure out, being retired, wanting to take cruises, rent Sea-Doos, ride quads. I don't know what the next thing is. Me and my brother are about to take a 3-week trip somewhere. It's a we don't know where yet. It seems like even if I double my living expenses, I would still have almost 50% of the income to save for the next deal. So there will be a video coming on that soon, because I don't know yet. That's a great question. I'm probably going to have to skip through the rest of these because we are out of time, except for, I see Dividend Dave, airfare to fly here and help me clean your fridge. Hire someone. It would cost the same as the airfare. But good job cleaning the fridge. A lot of people replace a fridge when it's dirty when you buy a place, and almost always, if you really go top to bottom cleaning, most fridges are still usable. So we are out of time. Thanks again for showing up for a random midday live stream. My longer live streams, this one in today world, but not in future land, is the same day as my live stream. Today at 4 p.m. Pacific, I will be doing a live stream that probably lasts a couple of hours, where I will answer every question. So if you put a question in today and I didn't get to it, sorry, because I'm trying to do shorter content. I will see as many of you who could show up today at 4 p.m. Pacific. Thank you all very much. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.